and gentlemen, and welcome to Fight for Our Freedom Radio. And I'm your host, Badbaby. And boy, are we going to have a great show tonight. We have Scott from the Nibiru channel joining us, along with Robert Evans. And we are going to be talking about Planet X, Nibiru, the Destroyer, and we have some great information to share with everyone. Okay, we got some guests that are typing in the chat that they do not hear anything. You're being perped. All I can say is if you don't have audio, please, someone type it into the chat. Please log out and log back in, and you'll get your audio. I'm trying to unmute as fast as I can. Let's see if I can get you guys out here. Hello, Robert. Hello, Scott. Welcome to the show. And for those that are on the phone, please refrain for asking questions till the second hour. You can type some questions in the chat. I will ask Robert and Scott if they would answer a question or two. And during the second hour, if you're on the phone, just push *8, and that will raise your hand, and then we will unmute and allow you to ask questions. So good evening, fellas. How are you this evening? I hope we have some good information out here tonight.
Well, let Scott go first.
Yeah, I'm doing pretty good. My allergies are acting kind of a little crazy, so if I sound a little nasally, I apologize.
We have lots of allergies out here in Pacifica, California. But yeah, I know what you're talking about. We finally got clear skies today.
Yeah, we had some clear skies here today, but things just didn't look right. You know what I mean? The sun.
Oh yes.
The sun just doesn't look right. I took some footage yesterday, actually, posted it into a video on my YouTube channel, and whatever was above the sun looked man-made.
We have many things in our solar system right now, and the ETs have many things orbiting around our sun right now to make sure it stays nice and calm, so it's not interacting with these many things that are in our skies right now, and the one thing they orbit around. So yes, many videos have hit YouTube for a long time now, starting from about back in 2015, Kingman, Arizona. One morning, they were watching the sun. Kingman, Arizona, the observatory. And there was one guy on the very top of the observatory. He's looking into the camera, and the sun is sparking. The sun up in our sky was sparking so brightly that the camera was picking up the sparks coming down to the earth. So he puts his hand over the camera. Another person yells to him, is still seeing it. He takes his hand off it. Still seeing it, then the camera goes black.
Are you guys familiar with Carlos Ferrata?
Oh, absolutely.
Pardon?
Okay, we have a question in the chat. They would like to know if Bob or Scott know that if what Carlos Ferrata said about it affecting our feelings.
That would probably be the Schumann wave.
Yeah,
Schumann.
Yeah, go ahead, Robert.
Go ahead. Yeah, the Schumann wave is being put off by the Earth. It's mostly down in the low megahertz, down about 5 or 7 something. Right now, the last I've been told, the Schumann wave's up in the 15s. The Schumann wave affects the brain of all living creatures. And supposedly, the higher the wave, the more agitated or angry the being becomes.
Absolutely
Could
correct.
be? Okay. So we are at about 15 or 16 on that Schumann megahertz right now.
Mhm.
Now,
Okay,
either that's...
I just want to let you guys know, too, since we have 2 guests in the window tonight, I generally close out after 2 hours. I am going to allow us to go overtime, so, if you don't have to worry about crouching everything in. And also, I want to remind everybody that's in the chat room, I'm unmuting you as fast as I can, and if you lose your audio, just log out and log back in, because we're having a lot of harassment going on, and I want to address that before we get started. Why don't you tell us a little bit about your harassment, Robert, and what you've been going through?
My harassment since my wife and I first got on Facebook has been maybe reasonable for anyone that's a researcher. I've had the main group, which I hate to mention them, they all said I was putting up garbage information. And I went right online, and I went right to the source, and I showed that their garbage information was garbage. On Facebook, I try to accept anyone's friendship. And lately, I've been getting all kinds of weird porno images being put on my Facebook.
Oh, yeah, I saw a few of those because we're friends on Facebook. I did see one of those.
Some of them are pretty interesting, but no, I'm sorry, not good for Facebook, at least in my...
Yeah, I had that too. I had, and for a woman to have porno put on her Facebook page, I mean, guys can handle it better than a woman, but I guess I got broad shoulders. But I don't appreciate it. I think it's disgusting.
And Facebook has been erasing things once in a while. I've tried to put photographs up. Photos are pulled down. They're not anything other than what's being seen by almost everyone around the planet. Because we're seeing all kinds of weird things in our skies. And I have to admit, we are the first humans to see this stuff in our skies in over 3,000 years.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? The planet Nibiru has affected humanity 3 times before. Now, the movie 2012, I hope a lot of people saw that. It leaked way too much information. If you remember, near the end in the movie 2012, you have a Chinese monk on the top of his monastery, and he sees the oceans topping the high mountains. He starts banging this massive gong, but it's too late. That goes back to 2900 BC with Chinese Emperor Yao, believe it or not, Yahou. Now, everyone says, no, it's not real, Robert. The first Chinese emperor was just only about 5,000 years ago. Well, he declared himself to be the first Chinese emperor, and he ordered everything before him to be destroyed. So in the book, The Shu, S-H-U, King, Chinese Emperor Yao talks about how this thing was coming out of the constellation of Yin, and it caused the oceans to top the high mountains of China. And it took them 13 years to drain the salt water from the high mountain valleys back down to the rivers. And then it describes how he sent out 4 teams to look where south, north, east, and west was again. Now, everyone's going to say that means pole shift. No. The natural term is Earth crustal displacement. The same thing happened during Noah's flood. Now, Noah went by many names. One of his names was Ziusudra. Ziusudra built an ark, supposedly in 7 days, had 3 levels on it, split in 2, making 6 levels, and a 7th level put on top. The king came in with Ziusudra and a couple of other people. He had one person from every trade brought on board. Stoneworkers, woodworkers, beer makers, dancing girls. And he had one person who knew how to build chariots. Okay? Now, this account is in the Colburn Bible. This account sounds like it just came out of the Lost Book of Enki by Zachariah Sitchin. This account says where the ark was built, not down at the ocean, up in the hills, just like in the movie 2012. The water came up to the ark, not the other way around. The destroyer was seen in their skies that next morning after they closed the doors. The ark was lifted off. And in the accounts on that, inside the ark, they felt intense heat and intense cold. I'll get back to that. The ark was lifted off, landed on one of Ararat's mountains, where Enki, Enlil met them. Enlil was extremely angry that Enki had told his son Ziusudra about the incoming flood, because Enki wanted all of the humans and the Aeges to die, to wipe the planet clean. Then they would start all over. The Aeges came down from Mars during a recent visit by Anu, the king of Nibiru, and they took 200 females to be their wives. The book of Enoch is a match. Okay? After the water was lowered down and stuff, interesting, the Hopi Indians here in the United States, their third world ended by water. And their third world had the Earth's rotation reversed. I wonder how they knew that. The reversing brought on intense heat and intense cold, which is detailed in this account in the Colburn Bible. The Sumerian Kings list said that everything before the flood, the kings lived for thousands of years. Interesting. Since the Anunnaki, according to Zachariah Sitchin, were in charge of the world then. So the Hopi, if I remember correctly from their books, I've had to read a lot of this stuff, they came across from China and Japan, across the Pacific, at least I think, and that's my opinion, and they landed in North America. The Hopi, the clan leader, the chief, everyone spoke one language. Before the flood, all humans spoke one language until the Tower of Babel. That was because of Enki's son Marduk. He was supposed to become in charge according to the constellations, and they didn't want him to be in charge. So they nuked. Enki's grandson and Enlil's grandson used 7 nuclear weapons across what we now call Saudi Arabia into India. And one of the towns in India was recently discovered where all the brick buildings were melted and the bodies were found in the streets. That was in the Lost Book of Enki, tablets number 9, 10. The third time this stuff happened was during the Exodus. I've dated that back to 1613 BC. Ippawar, an Egyptian scribe, detailed the entire account. He said volcanic ash was falling over Egypt during the exodus of the Hebrews. The only volcano erupting then was the ancient Greek island of Thera, now called Santorini. So it was erupting and then it exploded because the destroyer, a massive red thing, was in their skies for about a month. The Hebrews escaped. Now, why don't we ever hear about this? Because from the 12th Egyptian dynasty to the end of the 17th Egyptian dynasty, the Hyksos, Hyksos, were in charge of the Nile Delta. They had their capital in Avaris, Egypt. Chamos and his brother Akhmos led the Egyptian army to have them kicked out at the end of the 17th Egyptian dynasty. Chamos and Akhmos became pharaohs. Akhmos survived. He became pharaoh about 1550 BC. The Egyptian army pursued the Hyksos up along the coast near where we now have Jerusalem. The Hyksos were a Canaanite people. And a lot of scholars I've had to read said they were the Israelis. They changed their name. The Hyksos, when they left Egypt, the Egyptians scratched off every one of their names and all their history, hoping that that would be the end. They were dead. But an ancient Egyptian tomb from the 12th Egyptian dynasty has very clearly drawn on the walls the incoming of the Hyksos. And the Hyksos look just like the Israelis. No ifs, ands, or buts. Ippawar's account matches the Holy Bible's account. So that's 1613 BC, when this massive red thing that the Egyptians called the destroyer was in their skies. I went to Catholic school. The Catholics all taught that the Pharaoh at the time of the Exodus demanded to know how and why the god of the slaves was more powerful than all of Egypt's magic. And he ordered that they dig up everything. And that's how we know about the Sumerians. The Sumerians take the Holy Bible back almost 6,000 years. So the Holy Bible is only from about 2,000 years ago. The Sumerians go back 6,000 years. The Sumerians give a huge amount of detail about the Anunnaki. The Anunnaki were one of their gods that came to Earth. Zechariah Sitchin says about 450,000 years ago. Humanity was started, if you believe Zechariah Sitchin. Too many things have all been coming to a point lately. Zechariah Sitchin and a Russian guy named Velikovsky did huge amounts of research into past civilizations, and their works have all been called garbage. But no one to my knowledge has ever called either one a direct liar. Okay, so we have ancient Chinese records from 2900 BC. Then we have Mosai of China from 1600 BC. Mosai of China is Mosai Book 5, about halfway down, describes how 3 gods came down to China, and they aligned themselves with one warlord. He gives the names, and I can't correctly pronounce them, so I'm not going to insult anyone. These gods aligned themselves with one warlord, and to pay the other warlords for not laying down, they caused a lot of things to happen. Intense heat, intense cold, massive fires, massive freezing. Then 10 days of intense meteorites and sand coming from the skies. Ippler's account says that during the Exodus, fire from the sky came down and destroyed everything that grew. Orchards, fields, vines. And he also said that stars shifted positions in the skies. That's Earth crust displacement.
Yes.
Pole shift. Okay?
Yes.
Ippler described it very well. He said it had happened twice before. And he said at one point the destroyer struck the Earth. But he didn't describe how it happened. He didn't describe the weather. Just what everyone was seeing, earthquakes, intense earthquakes left and right, volcanic ash, fire coming out of the ground. So that's the Exodus. That was the last time this stuff was in our skies.
Mhm.
Okay, back to the present time, 1954. President Eisenhower met with the Bishop of Los Angeles, Francis McIntyre, in what used to be called Muroc Army Airfield, now where Edwards Air Force Base is. They had 2 days with, I've been told this, they met with 3 alien races. The Greys, a reptilian-looking race, and an interdimensional race called the Etherians. When everything was over, they were all ordered to never talk about this again. The bishop refused because they didn't even want him to tell God. So when he left, he was heading back towards Rome, going across the United States and going across the English Channel. Somewhere in the United States, the plane had to land for refueling. The men in black forced their way on board the plane. They ordered that the bishop be silent. He said no. He had his guards throw them off the plane. He went back to Rome and spoke directly to Pope Pius XII. He told him everything. He said there were 2 alien races living on the earth at that time that looked just like humans. The Pope was enraged. He didn't want the people to know that because he was afraid the Catholic Church would lose all their following. So he put an archbishop over the bishop and ordered a joint venture between the United States and the Vatican. To keep it silent, they would meet with the aliens. 1955, Eisenhower went to Holloman Air Force Base. His plane landed at the end of the field. It stopped. he ordered everything to be shut down. All the radars, communications, everything. See, this goes back to a point in 1947. 3 alien ships crashed in and around Roswell, New Mexico.
That's right.
Talked about by Army Colonel Philip Corso. He said the Air Force got one, the Army got one, the Navy got one. But none of them were trying to make money off them. So later on, he was invited to go to the Pentagon, and he was put in charge of alien technology. And he had the good idea to reverse engineering a lot of the stuff that were found on board the ships. They reverse engineered, and we got infrared technology, supposedly computers, supposedly lasers, and a bunch of other stuff.
Implants.
And he also said that the surviving alien told them that they had bases up on our moon. Now, the Anunnaki, which were then being called the Nordics, 6 foot or higher, white-skinned beings with yellow or gray hair, the plane, Air Force One landed, he shut down everything. See, the Doppler radar systems were in beginnings back then. Eisenhower ordered that the Doppler radars be shut down permanently while he was there. Within minutes, 2 ships arrived. One stayed hovering above Air Force One. The other one landed right in front of Air Force One. Eisenhower was seen leaving Air Force One, entering the ship. Supposedly, Eisenhower tried for advanced technology with the Anunnaki or the Nordics. They turned him down because they were afraid that we would kill each other with all the nuclear weapons we would have, and that's almost what the Anunnaki did thousands of years before. And they didn't want that to happen. They told Eisenhower that if we did that, we might damage their bases on their moon. Eisenhower was enraged by this, that they claimed our moon is theirs, which matches almost exactly what Zechariah Sitchin said in the Lost Book of Enki. The aliens were allowed to leave, but they offered their help and support for an upcoming huge disaster that would affect the entire planet. They said a rogue planet was coming in with its brown dwarf star, and it would cause many dangers. They offered their help and support. Eisenhower turned them down because he thought it was their ploy to get the nuclear weapons. He told them to leave, and if we ever saw them again, we'd shoot them from the skies. We actually did shoot one down in 1976 over Germany. Canada shot one down too. That's why every time the aliens, ETs, show up over a nuclear base, they shut it down completely. Whether it's the United States or Russian, probably over China too, who knows, North Korea.
Well, I had heard, Robert, that they're concerned about us destroying this planet with nukes because it'll knock it out of orbit, and that will affect the whole solar system.
I don't know. It's a possibility. It really is. You see, what no one's been talking about is that NASA imaged a brown dwarf star back in 2007. This brown dwarf star orbits around our solar system. It has its own Oort cloud. And every once in a while, its Oort cloud gets very close to our Oort cloud and it shows up on many sensors. This brown dwarf star has 7 planets. Planet number 6 is Nibiru. Nibiru orbit has a very high ecliptic angle. See, everything in our solar system is on one ecliptic level.
Mm-hmm.
All the planets in our solar system, except for Pluto, orbit counterclockwise around our sun. And every planet except for Pluto has its orbit angled downwards. Okay. Nibiru.
Okay, we've got a couple questions in the chat. And,
sure, go ahead.
Let's give Scott a chance to talk also. So we'll pose this question to him. We have a question in the chat, Scott. Someone's asking, what do you think about the videos that are coming in from Brazil?
On the webcams?
Yes.
Well, you know, I mean, I get about 1,500 emails a week, and I go through every single photograph, every single video, and to tell you the truth, I'm just going to throw this out there. I honestly don't think that we're looking at our natural sun. There is definitely something wrong with our sun, or they have a sun simulator.
Several people have said that.
Yeah, the sun just does not look right. I mean, the rays of the sun are blue. The lens flares that come back, literally, if you examine them, they literally show large lenses behind the sun. So my personal opinion is they knew what the effects were going to be on the sun.
Yes.
I mean, let's face it. You know, NASA does employ some very intelligent people. I do believe the sun is being drained of its energy. I believe it's not being able to, you know, build its internal pressure. And I think all of the space shuttle missions for years, I think they were literally building this device in space. I believe right now, and probably for, I don't know, some time, this has been magnifying the sun. Because how can you take a photograph of the sun and it's square or diamond shaped and only 2 rays coming from the sun in almost a diamond pattern? The rays are blue. I mean blue. There is no more orange or yellow. The rays of the sun are blue. I have thousands of photographs. I examine them every single day. I had a gentleman from California 2 weeks ago, retired military, sent me a photograph from San Diego, and he was taking some photographs of the sun, and he's one of my subscribers on my YouTube channel, and he sent me an email scared out of his mind, and he said, "Could you please call me?" So, you know, I gave him my number, we talked, and he said, "I have to show you this video." And he sent me the video, excuse me, and the video literally shows lightning bolts coming from the bottom part of the sun. And I mean lightning bolts. So
yes,
if you're able to see those lightning bolts from Earth through a cell phone video, then those bolts of electricity or lightning or whatever they are, they have to be, what do you think, Robert, millions of miles long?
Yes. Several people have taken videos of the sun. The first one was from Kingman, Arizona, at the observatory. The second one was several months ago showing the same thing. These massive sparking bolts coming down. Okay, SOHO satellite, stereo ahead, stereo behind, the U.S. Navy's SETI satellites all imaged the sun. Starting in 1998, the SOHO satellite started showing these immense ships coming into our solar system and leaving our solar system. These immense ships were firing immense beams of energy, thousands of miles apart along. Sometimes they were hitting something where you saw the beam stop. Sometimes the beam kept going where they missed it. But they also caught these massive things orbiting around our sun. These things are easily the size of the planet Earth. They're huge satellites. See, every scientist coming up to 2012 said it was going to be the sun. It was going to be the sun's hottest cycle in 11 years. We were going to have solar problems for years. Then the sun became very quiet. You never heard about any of this stuff again. That's when these things were being caught around our sun. Now, NASA and some of the MUFON's people were all saying this is garbage. But here's the images from the SOHO, from stereo ahead, stereo behind, and the SETI, the U.S. Navy's satellites. I've got these photographs. They show these massive things around our sun. They're controlling our sun's output, probably producing what you, Scott, are saying. You see, our solar system is on an electrical system. You have amperage and voltage, put it simply. Anything else coming through our solar system, like the comet Elenin back in 2010 and Nibiru, they're on a different voltage amperage. So our sun interacts with them. That's why our sun is putting out these massive sparks we're seeing all around our planet. That's why our sun looks different. Is it a fake sun? A lot of people have been saying that lately. Friend Dawn
I've been hearing
Hull,
that too.
my friend Dawn Hull up in Seattle, up in the Washington state, she has a very expensive camera. It looks into the infrared.
I've had her on.
Yeah, she's seen quite a few things. See, a lot of these videos, they're showing one, sometimes two, sometimes a third object next to the sun. NASA imaged the planet Nibiru back in 2008. How they imaged it, I haven't the faintest. Beautiful photograph. And then they put lines going out to each one of its whatevers. There's 13 lines going out from the planet Nibiru. We have 8. Believe it or not, we have the outermost 8 of these 13 satellites. Call them planets, planetoids, whatever the correct name is. Someone will probably say, hey, no, Bob, it's this name, it's that name. We have 8 of these things in our skies right now, and they're affecting the Earth's crust. Robert S. Harrington was part of NASA's team after the IRIS spacecraft saw it back in 1983. Sorry, in 1983. Scientists at NASA jumped the gun, and they issued that they found something very hot out beyond Pluto that was 4 to 8 times the size of the planet Earth. NASA decried that they should never said a thing and pulled all the stories. But they continued to leak stuff in every scientific journal, and these leaks were put onto various things, YouTube and everything else. The 2 satellites that were sent out, I can't remember the names right now. Something 10-11. They went out, and at a certain point, one went up above the ecliptic, one went down below the ecliptic. They were searching for something. Then the 2 Voyager satellites did the same thing. They found Nemesis. Nemesis is our brown dwarf star. Planet Nibiru is Planet 6. Nibiru has 13 satellites. We're seeing 8 of them in our skies right now. Nibiru orbits through our solar system, as Robert Harrington said, clockwise. Interesting. So he goes into our solar system between Jupiter and Mars, orbits underneath our sun at a nice downward angle, about 35 to 40 degrees, then goes back up and out on the other side. Okay, the Earth is orbiting counterclockwise. The Earth is orbiting right towards these objects. I've got photographs of these things from April 2015, and they were very small in the skies. Now they're very large in the skies. So we're going right towards them. Each one of them has different colors. The first one was seen over Antarctica, April 10th, 2015. Neumayer Station number 3 on their web camera. Beautiful object. Beautiful. In black and white. It has stripes on it. Then my friend Sharon, she caught it in her skies over Illinois in clear skies. And it's nice and blue up in the skies. It has the same stripe pattern. So it's the same thing. Then we started seeing more of these over Europe. Interesting. The news media will not talk about them. There's a mass disinformation program here in the United States and Canada. These things have been caught over Canada, over the United States, over Europe, over in Russia, China, Japan. There's a big red one. The only red one being caught in our skies. And it's grown larger and larger. Humanity knows this red one. The Hopis call it the red Kachina. The Egyptians called it the destroyer. The Holy Bible calls it wormwood. Now, I'm not an expert. Maybe Scott is. I know from bare bones education that each planet, moon, or whatever, has gravitational and electromagnetic pull. Now, we have 8 of these things in our skies, and we are drawing closer to them. I'm told they are affecting the Earth's crust right now. The volcanic activity is on a tremendous rise. volcanoes are going off or rumbling all around the planet, including Yellowstone.
Yeah, they're hiding Yellowstone, aren't they?
Several videos from Yellowstone showed these little rivers or creeks or whatever. They were steaming, where
Yep.
the ground was making them so hot.
Did you hear about the two deaths where one man, his dogs jumped into a river and the water was so hot that it was boiling, and he tried to jump in to save his dogs and he died? They kept that quiet.
I've heard rumors of it.
Yeah,
Okay.
There was another one after that. Let's give Scott a chance to answer some of the questions that are being posed to him in the chat. One person wanted to know, Scott, if how long do they have to prepare? I mean, I don't think any of us really know the time frame. Do you think so, Scott?
Well, I mean, over the last couple of weeks, I've gotten together with a gentleman who is a physicist, very, very intelligent man. He doesn't be identified at all, but he's been giving me a ton of information and trying to calculate a date. And that's nearly, almost impossible. Now, you could take a biblical standpoint, like, Gil Broussard has, his biblical exodus of these planets. But last week when we were talking, he submitted a horrifying report to me, giving a date of exodus around May of 2017. And
So that's what Gil said last week.
Yeah.
I had Gil on last week, and he was talking about the constellation of the stars, and he was saying that April, May of next year is when it's going to be right there.
Well, things are going to start getting really odd. Like, you guys are talking about, water temperatures. I keep an eye on everything. I spend 14 hours a day monitoring everything. Our oceans are very hot. Very hot. I mean, well, let's just say right outside of Miami. I lived in Miami for 22 years. The water temperature does get pretty warm. But when you're in the South Atlantic, they were having water temperatures. Well, the hurricanes are coming left and right. The water temperatures are close to 90 degrees.
Mm-hmm.
Earlier today, in the South Pacific, they had a water column form that literally caused a tsunami buoy to register a 100-foot rise. Not a drop, a rise. Now, where did that come from? How did that happen? I mean,
well, there's a possibility, Scott. I'm sorry to step on you here.
Oh, no. Okay.
You see, years ago, there's a nice video on YouTube that any of your listeners can go to. It's called Nemesis, the Earth's Evil Twin. It's a 45-minute video, and the scientists went right into everything I'm talking about, and they said that on a 26 million year cycle, Nemesis comes around and it causes a mass extinction here on the planet Earth. And the guys on there, they're all well-known Cal State scientists and stuff, and you can watch the video, and you can listen to each and every one of them, and they used some of the very same images I'm showing people right now. See, your listeners, if they have astronomy programs, go into your astronomy programs and show the solar system. Then, usually on the left-hand side of your part, you'll say dwarf stars, different stars. Click on the dwarf star called Sedna, S-E-D-N-A. Then back way off. Sedna has a tremendous orbit, a nice circular orbit. And there's our little solar system down in the right-hand corner. I show that orbit from my astronomy program called Astro Viewer. And I took many photographs from the screen showing Sedna's orbit. It's at a high ecliptic angle to everything in our solar system, about 35, 40 degrees, just like Robert Harrington said Nibiru's orbit was. Here's our little tiny solar system down in this right-hand corner, but what's this thing orbiting around? There's nothing there, but something is causing it to have a circular orbit. I went in slowly from each planet, and from the dwarf planet Pluto, which orbits clockwise just like Sedna does, just like Nibiru does. It has the angle of its orbit downward, just like Sedna's orbit. And then every planet going inwards has its orbit tilted down the same way. What caused all the orbits, except for the Earth? The Earth has almost a circular orbit on the ecliptic. Now, I'm no scientist here, but when I see Sedna, I know about what Robert Harrington said, and I know about Nibiru. These things are orbiting clockwise. We're orbiting counterclockwise. You see, every 3,000-something years, the Earth's orbit is not in the same place when Nibiru would come through. Only 3 times in human history has it caused problems here on Earth. We're using the 4th time right now.
And we're seeing the problems. I mean, someone asked in the chat, how much time do we have? I think time's up. I think we're, all you got to do is watch the weather, the extreme weather, the extreme flooding, the extreme heat, the extreme snowstorms they had last year. Do you think we're going to have a nuclear? Sorry, I'm muting people by accident. I'll unmute you. Do you think we are going? Because we got a few months before it comes. That's what I'm hearing from Gil Vizard. This is what I'm hearing from Scott. Do you think that this winter is going to be like a nuclear winter? Because one of the things that I've been reading about is that the banks, and this is strange, the banks are preparing for a nuclear winter.
Okay, let's put it this way. My contact says it'll be very soon. She will not tell me when, but she has told me it will not be like Noah's flood. Okay, great. Let's go to Edgar Cayce, the sleeping prophet. Edgar Cayce in 1945, before he died, supposedly was the first human to use the term pole shift. He said a future pole shift was coming, and he had maps of the United States drawn up showing what would be the results of this future pole shift. The movie 2012 used a great deal of what Edgar Cayce said. So has the military. Edgar Cayce had these maps drawn up. The U.S. military, for all high-ranking, retiring people, they were all told that something's coming, that they would have a call or some type of something. They'd have 3 days to get everyone together, and they would be booked out. See, back in the 80s, every country around this planet started building the deep underground military bases, the DUMBs we've all been hearing about. The largest one here in the United States is under the Denver airport, and it's fully activated right now. It was leaked by the black U.S. president, Morgan Freeman, in the movie Deep Impact. He said that only 2,000 people would be able to go in there and would stay safe for over 6 months. Everyone else on the surface was on their own. Then this one person, I don't have his name, he was a high-ranking engineer up in Norway. He turned politician, and he leaked that all the Norway deep underground military bases were for the elite. The regular people on the surface were on their own. They would probably all die. He said they were all built because of Planet X was coming in soon. Russia started building over 5,000 bomb shelters in and around Moscow. Only recently have they been all done because of Planet X was coming in. Okay, the Doomsday Seed Vault caught the wind of 60 Minutes and Channel 5 because of the the names of the world's billionaires from Bill Gates all the way down who paid for the small barred seed vault. 60 Minutes called the Doomsday Seed Vault. I wonder if someone's name is on that. Or maybe two people's names are on that. I don't know. And that's been kind of quieted down. Then all the FEMA camps were being built across the United States, from the East Coast all the way up to Alaska. FEMA paid for thousands of 3 to 5 person caskets to be manufactured, and in some places they're buried outside of each one of these FEMA camps. Back before Barack Obama became senator, numerous people started having nightmares and daydreams of a massive wave hitting the entire West Coast. The survivors were hiding from the black helicopters. Black helicopters, they probably have a FLIR device, infrared device on the front where they can see warm bodies on the ground. They were all being picked up and taken to the camps. There was a black U.S. president. There was a brand new flag over the United States. They were meant to be workers. Another lady on another radio show, I'm not going to mention which one, back in 2012, Just Call Me Kit. She said she was a Tea Party Republican, and she was following each one of the nation's projects. She was pissed off at Hillary Clinton for how much money she spent. But she started to realize that everything of importance was being pulled away from every coastline around the United States. West Coast, Gulf Coast, East Coast. She went down the list for almost an hour. She said there were 4 immense dry food storage and frozen food storage banks built in 4 states in the middle of the United States. All the states were labeled A, B, C, and D. And each one of these banks of food were labeled A, B, C, and D. And she named all the states for each one. And she said they started off at a staggering $74 billion to start with. And they had to be done by 2013. She has not been heard from on YouTube since 2013. I don't know if she's around or whether she disappeared or anything. See, in the movie 2012, you had all these scientists that were disappearing left and right. Robert Harrington was going to go public with everything he knew. I think it was 1993. And he came down with a very quick form of highly dangerous cancer. Just like in the movie 2012, the guy from the Louvre was killed off really quick. The account from the Exodus said that fire from the sky destroyed everything that grew. In the movie 2012, you had the main characters talking about Earth crust displacement. 2 English authors, D.S. Allen and J.B. Dallaire. They came out with 2 books during the late 1990s. One was called, I think it was the Year the Earth Nearly Died. The second one was called Cataclysm, Compelling Evidence of a Cosmic Catastrophe in 9,500 BC. That comes out to 12,500. Noah's flood has been dated by numerous researchers to 12,900 BC. Right on time. These 2 authors went into great research of all ancient accounts. They said something, they used a different name for it, came way too close to the Earth, causing what we now would call Earth crust displacement. And as it went by, it stopped the Earth, reversed its rotation, just like the Hopi people say in their prophecies. And that caused intense heat, intense freezing. The Chinese records say intense heat, intense freezing. The account from the building of the Ark, which is, I left out part of that. I'm going to get into it real fast. See, in the account of building the Ark, each level had tarred inside and out water storages on each level. You can't drink out of a tarred cistern. They were meant to be ballast tanks. When the Ark lifted off, it ballasted down where the waves weren't going to hurt it anymore. That's when they felt the intense heat, intense cold. These 2 authors, in a very detailed books, they go into great detail how they think this thing slowed down the Earth's rotation, stopped it, reversed it. See, we have accounts back down in South America, up in the Andes Mountains, where one of the glaciers has been falling back for years. It uncovered green-rooted plants. They dated these plants back to 5,200 years ago, right back to the last Aztec world. So something caused glaciation in this one area very quickly, earth crust displacement, and it covered this entire area of green plants with snow. Then a glacier built up on top of them. The glaciers are retreating now. Here's those green plants. No one wants to talk about this. Everyone thought the world was coming to an end on December 21st, 2012. Interesting. NASA leaked a great deal of information back in 2009, and it showed Nemesis interacting with our solar system from 2009 up to December 21st, 2012. It showed that they projected Nibiru to be 20 AUs away from coming into our solar system. AUs means astronomical units, which are 93 million miles from the Earth to the Sun. So they projected back in 2009 that it'd be that far away. I sent those to a friend of mine, which started to complain about, what the hell are you talking about, Bob? He's an astronomer in a different country. And I sent him all 8 slides, a PowerPoint presentation showing Nibiru going around and around and showing it getting closer and closer to our solar system. He said, where'd you get this? I said, it was leaked to me. He worked out the approaching speed of Nibiru. He said we would not see any of it until November, December of 2014. Interesting, 2014. We started to really see a strong second sun in our skies then. See, before that, for years, everyone was saying the digital cameras were goofing it up. You weren't seeing that second sun in the skies, even though regular cameras were picking it up. Suddenly, we saw something over the East Coast that had wings on it, just like the ancient pictures of Nibiru. See, as this Nibiru was coming into our solar system, when it got somewhere between Jupiter and Mars, the solar wind started to put the wings on it. My friend said we wouldn't see it until then. April 15th, over the Newmar 3 station down in Antarctica, we started seeing these things. The Vatican has been paying for all of the observatories around our planet, including the observatory they built in Arizona up in the San Francisco Mountains. They've been tracking this for years. They leaked images from their spacecraft called Silo in 2000. See, the spacecraft was a joint venture from Israel, the Vatican, U.S. It was built using alien technology in Area 51, was launched by the Aurora spaceplane. It went from the Earth all the way out past Pluto and met up with the incoming planet Nibiru. It videotaped it, orbited it. Then it came back in what a lot of people have told me in less than about 1 month. NASA spaceships take 12 years to get out to Pluto. And here's this thing that went all the way past Pluto, met up with Nibiru, came all the way back in about a month. A hyperdrive, I was told. They leaked and it downloaded everything to a secret Jesuit base up on a HAARP facility up in Alaska. You see, in 2000, the Vatican sent out a high-ranking Jesuit priest to talk to an Italian reporter named Christopher Barbato. Christopher Barbato was writing several things, and he started to write about Nibiru coming in. Then he told all this to his friend Luca Scantamburlo, Project Camelot. He did a 2-hour show called The Return of Planet X. You can find that on YouTube. If you click down and look more information, you can go to his website on Project Camelot, and you can see exactly what he says about this. He also has the text there from each of the videos. Goes into great detail how President Eisenhower met with Bishop McIntyre with the aliens in 1954. See, the interesting thing is that in 1954, a lot of people were put in there, a hand-picked group of Western scientists, plus a newspaper magnate. Can't remember his name right now. He has a big castle down there in Southern California. He had one of his team members named Gerald Light. Gerald Light was an interesting critter. He went through all the stuff, making sure he was safe, and he finally got there, and he got to see these alien spacecraft being flown around and tested by all of our scientists. And then he described it very detailed, how they watched a large block of solid material dematerialize in front of their eyes. This object dematerialized several times. That term, dematerialization, was not used in any book, movie, or anything until 1965 with Star Trek. I had a friend do a LexisNexis search for it, and he didn't find it until Star Trek. So here's this guy who saw everything then. He used this one term, and he said there was the Greys, and there was the interdimensional race called the Etherians. Interdimensionals. Interesting. He swore he wouldn't talk about this. He wrote it down to a friend, and he sent a letter to his friend. His friend kept it silent until he died. His wife found it in his letters, and everyone said it was BS. If you go to my website, Starships Around the Sun, you'll see it right there on the front page. You'll see everything that was said in this letter. Interesting, interdimensionals. There's a new TV show talking about ghosts called The Dead Files. This one lady named Amy, her and her friend were up in Oregon, and this one place, she said she kept seeing these interdimensional beings and creatures coming out of like a force field type thing into our planet. And that's the exact term she used, interdimensional creatures.
Robert,
I talked too much, I'm sorry.
That, I want Scott to tell us what he received from somebody in Switzerland about that.
Well, I want to be a little careful on that subject, but the man lives not too far from the CERN project.
Mm-hmm.
About 2 months ago, I guess they were turning it up, per se, and a few days later, he went to let his dog outside in the morning, out in the back to do his business. And the dog would not go outside. Started whining, turned around, ran back in the house. And he saw what he described as kind of a mirage in his little backyard. Kind of like a heat mirage. You'd see it.
Okay.
And he thought it was kind of odd. Now, very small little backyard. And he went inside, grabbed his cell phone, and snapped a few pictures. Now, this was right before the sun was coming up, so there was no light in the photograph. And he downloaded the photograph onto his computer and looked at it, and the photograph literally shows. I looked at the photograph. I've been into paranormal for 22 years. I got to send you this photograph, but there are a bunch of, they look like people from hell. There's even a few animals in the photograph. And, I honestly think that they opened another dimension, and, these beings are now here, and they couldn't shut it. Now, a little time went by, and a lot of the people in the town were concerned, but they don't want to say anything. So they must be under some type of, government threat. But they started holding little secret town meetings and exchanging experiences, and they were all the same. And the photographs were all very similar. And the photograph is very startling. Very. I'll make sure I send it to you.
Interesting.
Yeah, and
so many things are happening all around this planet. People are starting to talk about. The Hopi prophecies say that near the end of the fourth world, we'll be seeing stuff just like what you're saying.
Mm-hmm.
They say that something in the sky will come down. You see, every account from the first to the third all talk about a huge mass of meteorites, objects coming down, destroying everything on the ground. In Egypt, they destroyed the palace, killing the firstborn and the other highborns. What's the Exodus say? That Pharaoh's son was killed. Okay. The Chinese accounts all talk about huge amounts of rocks and stuff coming down for up to 9 days. That will just cause nothing but whatever here on this planet. I'm told that we will actually pass through the tail of Nibiru, and the tail will have a lot of the stuff coming down. Now, the ETs are on our side this time. They want the advanced humans to survive. The last time they came through, everyone was knocked back down to, in living in Egypt under the pharaohs, or basically cavemen.
So, Robert, what are they going to do? Are they going to shield us, or are they going to lift some of us up to some ships? What?
I'm told that they're going to save a great deal of people so they can pass to the next level. Now, what that means, I have no idea. Unfortunately, some of the ETs that Eisenhower made treaties with don't want that to happen. And the powers that be don't want to lose their power. The Georgia Guidestones, for any of your listeners that have never seen it or heard of it, built back in 1979, 3 massive granite blocks with almost every known language. In 10 basic commandments is written on them. The basic one, never let the population go above 500 million again. You see, the Anunnaki started 3 factions on this planet that are still in charge. A year ago, almost 2 years ago, my wife and I went to the planet Malta. I went to the island Malta over in the Mediterranean. Her parents came from Malta. And I saw the Maltese cross everywhere. You can't walk around without seeing it anywhere. I came back, one of my friends on Facebook changed his picture on his Facebook page to a rare picture of an Anunnaki carving. Usually most of the wall carvings show them in these elaborate robes. This one has chest bared. And on his chest, he has a long chain. And he's pointing towards something. At the end of his chain, when it's enlarged up, is a circle with an 8-pointed cross. So I had to research the holy heck out of that. In the 1180s, the Pope created the Templars and the Hospitallers. And he told them to put that image on their clothes. That's the mark of Cain. At least that's what the Pope called it. The mark of Cain. When you had Cain and Abel. Cain killed Abel, and God, or the Anunnakis, put this mark on his forehead. In the Lost Book of Enki, he was banished to the other side of the planet. In the Holy Bible, you have Adam, Eve, Cain, and Abel. Cain was banished, and Cain had a huge family. With whom? The Bible never talks about that. There's only Adam and Eve, Cain and Abel. Only one female. In the Lost Book of Enki, the Anunnaki are all around the planet. So Cain created a big civilization over there at that one side, and when it came time for Zayasudra's flood, they saved Cain's people because they were really good with metalworking. So the Hospitallers and the Templars, they created the Illuminati, the Rosicrucians, and the Freemasons. The Freemasons are almost in every known major family and also started the United States. George Washington was a 33-level Freemason. Several presidents have been Freemasons. The Rosicrucians, the Georgia Guidestones were created by R.C. Christian. Rosicrucian. In 2014, someone turned off the cameras, went in there, carved out a big piece, knowing how to do stonework, and put a block in and turned the cameras back on. The block said 2014. I wonder why it had 2014 on it. Then this one group was caught by visitors there. They drove in, went up to the block, knocked it down, and like a Freemason, they were down on one knee, and they smashed it all up. And the block had different letters and numbers all the way around, and they gave them to every person that wanted them, and then they got back in their truck and they drove off. That caught everyone by surprise that was following the Georgia Guidestones. Then we started seeing this at the end of 2014. Edgar Casey says all this stuff is going to happen. The entire West Coast is going to be gone. There'll be islands all the way up to Canada. Lake Tahoe and Yosemite will be one major island. The new West Coast shoreline will be over in Colorado. Numerous Native Americans have had prophecies that everything west of the Rockies will be gone, that mankind will be running around raping and killing each other. Quickly, depopulation will take effect. China, years ago, started building major cities down in Africa and up in Mongolia. These cities are completely set aside. They're under heavy security. These cities are fully ready. No one's living in them. The United States has been hiding M1 Abrams battle tanks up in Norway's caves for 4 years. One of my newer friends on Facebook sent me a leaked photograph of one of these caves. Very nice and clean, all nice, everything. It's not a cave of any type. It was man-made. And here is one row after another of Humvees with the 50 calibers on top. About 6 rows across, another photograph going as far back as the camera can look. All this stuff is hidden up in Norway's caves. For what reason? They're prepared for this stuff to happen. And whomever has the most military that survives will be the New World Order. Either China, Russia, the United States. I don't know. A lot of my friends over in Europe, they're seeing this stuff in their skies, but the news media will not talk about them. Recently,
why is Russia talking about it? Russia is, and so
yes,
is China.
They are.
They're both telling their people.
Yes, they are. Several other countries have been warning their people recently to stock up on food, medicine, and supplies. That something is going to be happening real soon. Okay? See, they want a major depopulation. There's too many people on this planet, and this will do it.
Yeah. We
okay?
have a couple questions for Scott, Robert, so let's give Scott a chance to answer some of these questions.
No, go ahead.
Okay, Scott, you're not in the chat room, are you?
No, I'm not.
Okay. You got a couple people in the chat room. They want to ask you about the filtered videos that you've been taking. Can you please ask Scott about the filtered videos and the photos he has been taking? And also, somebody wants to know, well, go ahead and answer that right now.
The blue filter, I asked a photographer, a friend of mine, what would be the best filter to block the rays of the sun? And we got into a deep discussion, so we went out and started, doing some tests. He came up with this blue filter for the camera, and it literally blocked out these blue rays of the sun and just showed the center, what we were actually looking at, because it's emitting so many rays and it's so bright, you have to block it out. And then we come to find this planet next to the sun. Some days it's small, some days it's large. It literally has shading on it. Like one side is a lot dimmer that is away from the sun. And then we timed the photographs at different intervals during the morning, afternoon. By late afternoon, it was gone. But it was slowly moving in a descent downward. And, you know, these photographs, I mean, I have hundreds of them. But what I wanted to touch on, going back to these planets, is I have so many photographs of people sending directly to me. It's this aqua blue planet. Literally behind clouds. There's no lens flare. There's no pink flaring. It is a aqua colored planet. And then
the blue star Kachina.
Yeah, then we're getting a lot of photographs of this very faint, almost grayish type of planet with all of these little holes. And then we have another planet which is only photographed in Alaska. And it literally looks like Jupiter, but it's huge. It's literally so big in the photographs, and it is far from the sun. So it's not a photographic anomaly. And it literally has the shading of the sun. Meaning the sun is illuminating the one side, and the other side is, you know, shaded, like our moon.
That's planet 13.
Yes, that's what I wanted to ask you, because, you know, no one ever documented all of these planets. Sizes, orbits, and people are seeing different planets in different areas of the world.
Every observatory in the northern part of the world knows this. I had a friend that his friend at an observatory sent him a video showing all these things in our skies. And all these things matched up to everything. I've been taking photographs from everyone around the planet for 2 years. Planet Nibiru has 13 satellites. We have the outermost 8. We can't see Nibiru because supposedly it's on the other side of our sun right now. That's why some of these things are being caught in our skies. As you say, one side's nice and bright, the other side's nice and dark, where here's shadow and here's not. I've got friends all around the planet. They're seeing this a lot more down in the Middle East every day. My friend Whale down there, well, Whale's from the East Coast, but he has a friend down in the Middle East. They're seeing this every morning, every evening. They've been catching this up in Scotland, Ireland, Germany. I've caught these photographs very clear over Switzerland. Anytime it was being caught on a web camera, the web camera was turned off or tilted away where it couldn't see it again. So a lot of people are not saying what web camera they're seeing it in. It's been caught over Mexico, very clearly in the skies. Very clearly. See, we can't see it up here in North America because of all the chemtrails. The white chemtrails. All the white chemtrails that they put out during the daytime. See, I have a lab report going from 2006. A lab report. Very clear. Samples sent in from Texas and from a city over in Italy. They called it Morgellons. And the lab report goes into great detail with photographs. They say it was a man-made material that they've been spraying around the planet.
Now, I heard that technology was given to us by the ETs to cause disease. The Morgellons is a alien disease from what I read online.
One of my friends on another group, these free thinkers where they use their mind to think ahead, he was saying very clearly that all of the elite have been hit with shots to make sure that they are not affected
they were
by
vaccinated
this.
so that they would
Vaccinated.
That
You
was
see,
what I always wondered, Robert. Why would they be spraying the planet? They would be poisoning themselves. But I had heard that they were vaccinated so they wouldn't get it. We have one other question for Scott, and it is about the asteroids. And I want him to tell us about this because I spoke with him this morning, and he had an interesting video that he put out, what was going on in Canada. And the question is, could you ask Scott about his friend who gave him inside information about the asteroids for the 23rd, the 24th, and the 25th? Now, do you want to address that, Scott? I don't know if you want to bring your friend into it.
I mean, we could get into it. Me and this gentleman went to college together. We became very good friends, but I'll make a long story short. He ended up going into politics. He was from the Middle East, and he became a liaison to a Ministry of Defense. And we still keep in touch. We see each other a couple times a year. He still has family in the South Florida area. And he became privy to some information back in the beginning of March of this year. And it was kind of a panic. And it revolved around an asteroid that was about 9/10 of a mile long. It came out of nowhere. NASA found it, China found it, Russia, all three. And the scramble began. And he told me that, I don't even want to mention his name, the guy from Washington, D.C., the guy from Russia, met in Kuwait. The main topic was we have to protect our oil wells and who's going to be responsible for destroying this object. And then the little debate went on, and I guess it was the United States. So you're not just going to load up a rocket in 24 hours. They had a scheduled launch for June, July, August, and September. One backup rocket from Russia that sat on the pad for the 17th of September. I guess the mission was to intercept the asteroid, blow it up. And apparently, that's exactly what they did. In his email, he told me, listen, this is going to be bad, real bad. If they are unsuccessful and this asteroid hits in any ocean, Pacific, Atlantic, or land, it's going to be catastrophic.
Mm-hmm.
Apparently, the first mission was to go photograph it, blah, blah, blah. That was successful. They got all of their, I guess, coordinates. And the photographs were, he said that he saw them, and they were pretty startling. They sent the rockets up, under disguise of these are exploratory missions, satellites, blah, blah, blah. So I decided to put the video up. The video coincides with this, I think his name is Efren Rodriguez. This was supposed to be the cataclysmic event that was going to destroy Puerto Rico.
Mm-hmm.
But it was disinformation. And it was meant to see what the world population would do if threatened with this type of situation. Yeah, some people panicked, the rumors went flying, and then when nothing happened, it just went away. Now,
several of the remote viewers have already prophesized the same thing. I think his name is Dr. Courtney Brown. He did a remote viewing study from 2008 to June 1st, 2013. He said that massive asteroids would hit the Earth's oceans all the way around the planet. Hawaii was wiped clean by one of these tremendous outflow from an asteroid hit from the ocean. Sydney, Australia was damaged. One landed in the Indian Ocean, sending a wave all the way up to the foothills of Mount Kilimanjaro, wiping everything clean. One exploded off the East Coast, taking out Washington, D.C. His remote viewer teams all smelt rotten vegetation. People were running for their lives from every coastline. There was no emergency transportation, no emergency food. Everyone was on their own. June 1st, 2013 came, nothing happened. That one good-sized asteroid that exploded over Russia. Supposedly, numerous people saw in the video some type of spaceship following it and destroying it, and what was left came down over Russia. At that same time, everywhere around the Earth, asteroids were skimming across the surface. They were being seen in the skies. One exploded in the skies over this one town over in Russia. This one guy is driving, and this huge brightness. I guess they have dashboard cameras on almost everything over there. And his camera caught, it was raining, dark. Here's this tremendous blast in the sky. And then suddenly it was gone. So it was a blast, and it didn't hit the ground. It exploded in the atmosphere. This happened for several months all around. I was following at least what I could see on the internet here, that we had one streak across the sky after another, after another, after another. Then it all became very quiet. Now, like I said, SOHO satellite has been picking up these immense ships. Now, I spoke at UFOCon 213. I showed these pictures to everyone on the screen. These ships are the size of this planet. They're immense. Now, another religion also shows them. The Zoroastrian religion, which is now over in what's now Iran. They have tremendous wall carvings showing what looks like a bird's wings outstretched with an Anunnaki standing right in the middle. But the interesting part, no one's really looked at these photographs. These carvings have two metal rods coming down with round wheels. Landing gear. So here's an Anunnaki standing in front of his flying craft. Now, my friends that know much about the Anunnaki say that was Enki, that he started the Zoroastrian religion. You look at the first good picture I have from the EIT 304 Ultra Extreme Camera on Soho. 2005. Here's this massive thing coming down the left-hand side of our sun. It has a trail of exhaust coming out the back, going back quite a ways. I don't know what to call it. But this ship, and that's exactly what it is. It was enlarged. This ship matches exactly this image that the Zoroastrians call the Ahura Mazda. A guy, a filmmaker, John Gresh, I think his name was, he came out with a movie in 2005. It was going to be released in 2006 called One Anunnaki. You can go on to YouTube, put down One Anunnaki, and you'll see several things about it. One of the images I saved from it, he has the Ahura Mazda depicted as a flying craft with a huge circular viewing area underneath as it's flying over a human. He was going to put this in the film. It was already filmed. And if you look at the actors on it, it was pulled by the powers that be in 2006. They didn't want it up there. Interesting. The ISIS dudes over there in Iraq, they're destroying all of the ancient Anunnaki carvings left and right. There have been numerous videos from ISIS where they're smashing the
They're
Anunnaki.
going into the museums.
Yes.
And I heard they're trying to rub out any history.
I don't know. I've just seen bits and pieces where I recognize the Anunnaki wall carvings being smashed.
Yeah, they're going into the museums.
Mm-hmm.
And they're trying to rub out all history from what I'm seeing, and I don't know why either. You know,
going back 6,000 years, because the Anunnaki created the Sumerian race. If you read Zachariah Sitchin's books. I'm sorry, Scott, I talk too much. I've been on too many radio shows. I can talk for hours. I've had to
tell us about what he received yesterday that happened over Canada.
Oh yeah, well the asteroid was, fragmented, and I took a lot of abuse over that video. Are you familiar with Rabbi Glazerson and the Bible codes?
I think I've heard that name or have read that name, yes.
Yeah, I mean, he prophesizes using the Torah, blah, blah, blah. Kind of simultaneously with my story, he never publicized his. He actually got in contact with me, and all the information that was given to me showed up in all the codes. The names, the dates, the situation, the whole 9 yards. Fragmentation, operation successful. We will have fragmented meteors coming down for a couple of weeks. So I kept updating the information in videos, and sure enough, yesterday afternoon over Canada and Vermont, Vermont, Maine, Alberta, Ontario, meteors coming down like crazy. In the newspaper, photographed, and then a couple of my subscribers, gave me the information. So I started monitoring the meteors online, and they were just coming down in droves. The spikes on the meteor scan were immense, but they were all burning up in the atmosphere, and that's what was wanted. Now, days before, I had subscribers sending me photographs from Nevada, New Mexico, Colorado, Arizona, and Southern California of daytime fragments coming down. And I publicized all of the photographs. So today, I put up another video, and people from all over the world, everywhere, are now seeing the fragments coming down. And everyone tried to discredit the entire story. But yesterday and today is solid proof. Bottom line. And that was that. But I took a beating on that story.
And you know, the thing is, this is the thing, the bottom line right here is Robert has had his computer fried. I had my computer fried. Scott has had his phone fried. And we are getting harassing things put up on our Facebook pages. And also, Scott, your daughter received a harassing text this week. Am I not right?
It was a little more than harassing.
Well, it was nasty, very nasty. But the thing is, none of this would be happening to us if they weren't trying to stop us from talking about what we're talking about right now.
Well, the disinformation campaign is very intense. Very. I uncovered an agency in the UK, and that is exactly what they do. They are assigned to social media, the troll. And I outed them last week. And then they started digging into me, my personal information, and then they got they got down to my 13-year-old daughter. And the one individual made a fake Facebook account from one of her friends and sent her a message. She answered it. Message was, hey, I forgot my password in my Facebook account. I had to open up a new account, blah, blah, blah. So, they went back and forth with a few chats. And the next thing you know, this very horrible, pornographic photograph came up. And, my daughter's 13. And this started a huge firestorm, in my family. And the words were consistent with the death threats that I was getting from the same individual in emails. So I knew it was them.
Yeah. And this is how it works, folks. And we got a few trolls in the chat room tonight. I'm just ignoring them. But we do have quite a few people on the phone. I have been unmuting in the chat room. We have 335 people in the chat room right now, and we do have a caller that's been waiting very patiently with their hand raised. So why don't we give this person a chance to ask a question? Welcome to the call, Arizona. You have a question for our guest.
Yes, and if it would be all right, I have a poem that I wrote before this show.
Well, I don't think we have time for that, honey, because we're coming up on the end, and I'm going to let these guys go over, and it's not fair to the other people who would like to ask questions. We have so many guests in the show tonight. I mean, we're pushing 400 guests.
Wow, that's awesome.
So go ahead with your question.
Okay. I'm wondering if this event back way, way, way back in history was what demolished the Tower of Babel, and if the tectonic plates were actually split apart, and that's what caused the people to disperse all over the world. Is there any Do you have any opinions or any thoughts on that, either Scott or
Robert?
Hello?
Robert,
Yeah.
do you want to address that?
That's more up Robert's alley.
Did we
I'm
lose
sorry.
you, Robert? Oh, he's not on. We lost him.
Oh boy.
Okay. Do you want to try to address that, Scott?
I mean, that's more up Robert's alley.
Yeah, and we lost him. I just noticed that we lost him. Yeah, and that's unfortunate. Okay, well, I'm sorry, Arizona. I don't think we're going to be able to address that unless Robert can get back on. So I'm going to mute you back.
Wow.
Okay, I'm going to mute you back. Oh, wait a minute.
Okay.
There's somebody else. Let me mute you back and see if this is Robert. If it is, I will unmute you again. Okay.
On?
Yes, California. Is that you, Robert?
Yes, my telephone turned off for a while Scott was talking. The Tower
Did you
of
hear
Babel.
that question?
Yes, I did.
Okay.
The Tower of Babel in the Holy Bible, that was to keep the humans from going up into the skies. In Zechariah Sitchin's book, The Lost Book of Enki, that was to kill all the supporters from Enki's son, Marduk. And they split up all of the language. See, everyone could speak one language back then, so everyone could work together. They didn't want the humans to ever work together again, so they split up all the languages. In the Hopi part, when the Hopi Native Americans got to North America, they were with the whites. The whites came with them. I think they call them the Pohanas in the Hopi. The chief asked his god that night to split up all of their languages here in North America. The next day, they could not talk together. So here you have the Holy Bible talking about the Tower of Babel. You have the Anunnaki talking about it. You have the Native Americans talking about it. The Hopi talked about it. I'm quite sure the other races of the Native Americans also knew about it. Did it split up the tectonic plates? I have only heard of one account, and that's Ipuwer's account during the Exodus, when the slaves and evildoers, the slaves were the Hebrews, the evildoers were the huge amount of Egyptians who latched on to the slaves as they left. When they got up towards the Mediterranean, they were stopped by saltwater marsh. During this time, the saltwater marsh rose above the water level, allowing nothing but mud and ground. So that's tectonic plates. Right there, the ground rose, and they put it fully in this account.
Mm-hmm.
Then you had the Hyksos Pharaoh, which had gone after them. He joined forces with them. They had to run across the mud to get away from him. Then they heard a tremendous roar in the skies, which stopped everyone. The Mediterranean drained away. A tsunami was coming, a massive one. When the tsunami came back in, it washed the Pharaoh and all of his troops away, and the other ones escaped. Interesting, the bottom of the Red Sea, about 20-something years ago, they found Egyptian chariots on the bottom, and they dated them to the end of the 17th Egyptian dynasty. No one wants to talk about that.
Yeah. Guest number 173, your question about Gil Bizard. If you want to know what Gil had to say, scroll down in this window. And he was on last week for 2 hours. And I will be having him back on. Everybody who is on the phone, because we are up on the end, but we are going to go over time this evening, so don't everybody take off. But if you are on the phone and you'd like to ask a question, please push *8, and that will raise your hand, and I will unmute you and give you a chance to ask a question. Let's see if we got some more questions in the chat room. Okay, we do have a question here on the phone, so we will unmute and allow them to ask. Okay, Florida, Tampa, welcome to the show. You have a question.
Yes, I do. I was wondering, like, with all this going on, and I've been pretty much keeping up with the Nibiru and everything that's going on, like, how come the government wouldn't be fair to people and let them know, like, they've hid this for so long, and not give people a choice to be able to say, okay, this is going to happen, you know, it would be good for you to get away from the coastal water, and, you know, we have families, and there's probably a lot of senior citizens out here that are going to have a hard time to get away, and, you know, it's our lives that are at risk. Is this when martial law takes place with this, you know, big problem that's going to affect the waters and the coastal from Maine all the way down to Florida?
The governments do not want that many survivors. They're going to keep it very quiet. They're going to go hide. They're going to go hide down in their deep underground military bases, and they think they're going to survive. When there's earth crust displacement, the Hopi described it as heavy, heavy earthquakes at the end of the Third World, which ended by water, Noah's flood. In the movie 2012, you saw massive earthquakes left and right. But Murphy's Law says it won't kill everyone. It will kill a great deal of people, but you'll have survivors all over the planet in little nooks and crannies. What's going to kill a great deal is when the electricity goes off. No hospitals. You can't get medicine. You can't get food. You run to your nearest Safeway or Cala or whatever you have near yours, you'll have everyone looting it. And just like the Native Americans prophesized, we would be turning on each other just to get the food you have. Humanity can be a very vicious animal. You'll have gangs running left and right, taking everything, looting, raping. I hate to say this stuff, but it's been shown over and over what would be done to it. Go ahead.
Do you think we're going to have, like, a tsunami that comes towards Tampa Bay waters? I mean, I came back here from New Hampshire because I wanted to be around my children and grandchildren. But with all this going on, I tell my kids, it's like I want to go back to either Canada or back up towards New England, towards Maine and stuff, because it's not so much.
Okay, the movie 2012 put it down very graphically. If you watch on the airplane when the Air Force One is flying away, when the Earth's crust starts to shift, it shifts as if you're in a bathtub.
Right.
You're in the bathtub, you're sitting there nice and calm, and then you push the water towards the other side and you sit back. The water goes zoomp, 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 zoomp. The world's oceans will all follow the Earth's crust the direction it's going, until the Earth's crust finally stops. Then you'll have wave, 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 boom, boom, off this continent, off that continent, back and forth. See, the biggest person that talked about this, Pope John Paul II, 1980. He went over to Germany, high group of paying Catholics, 2 reporters. They kept asking him about the third secret of Fatima. Pope gave up. He finally said he didn't want all the communist countries to grab land causing coups. But what if it was in writing that the world's oceans would cover every continent, killing millions within minutes? Why talk about it? The Vatican downplayed immediately what he said. Pope John Paul II was almost assassinated in 1981. After he recovered, he went directly to the assassin's cell. He spent over 2 hours talking to him off the record. He never repeated this warning again while he lived. You can find this on any of the internet searches. Pope John Paul II and the Third Secret of Fatima. It's all right there. Not the guy on the corner with the sign saying the world's going to end. Pope John Paul II. See, an interesting thing. You had Pope Benedict, first pope to retire in 600 years. After he retired, he went on several German radio shows, and he blasted the Jesuits for their alien agenda. Okay?
I feel so sad for everybody that's here, in Florida, the coastal. It seems like even if you move to Canada, you're not safe or anywhere, basically, is what you're saying.
Edgar Casey had one big map drawn up of the United States. The entire west coast was gone except for various islands going up to Canada. The Great Lakes ripped down all the way to the Gulf of Mexico.
Oh my God!
Most of the East Coast was gone. For the last 35, 40 years, every high-ranking military official was given a copy of that map, told when they get the signal, get your stuff together, you'll be put in a deep underground military base. That map has been leaked so many times over the years. It's gotten onto several different shows. It's on the internet. Edgar Casey talked about it. The entire world was affected. Several different people have shown the maps going around the world. A lot of countries are wiped out completely. Other countries are pushed out of the water. Over in the Pacific, a big landmass is pushed out of the water, and he called it Lemuria from ancient tales. Lemuria was the ancient Anunnaki name for Mars. I wonder how they got that same name. See, they knew this stuff was going to happen. Every world leader knows it. They've all prepared for it.
You know what's scary right now is I heard that Puerto Rico's had their power out for 2 days, and they're assuming...
Because there was a fire, supposedly, yeah.
But that's what they say. Is that true? Like, every night I hear military helicopters go above my condo every single night. Even a year ago, before I left this area, I couldn't take it. That's all I seen was military so low. helicopters flying around. I could be in a swimming pool, walking to the mailbox, like helicopters nonstop, black helicopters. And it just seems like some people would wake up and be like, what's going on around here? And then they're talking martial law, and the president's passing all these laws, executive orders to control airlines
in the movie Deep Impact, the first movie showing a black U.S. president, Morgan Freeman.
Yes.
At some point during the movie, all the prices are going through the roof. He did not use the term, but he said what you paid for milk and water yesterday will be the same price tomorrow. That's martial law.
Mm-hmm.
When all wages are locked at one price, that's martial law. President Obama, for the last 8 years, has been doing one signing on his desk after the other, all leading to martial law. The United Nations has been putting teams from other countries in this United States, teaching them how to do crowd control.
Yeah.
Massive railroad train cars called CarMax. You've seen them on almost every railroad line, double levels, cars and trucks. For years, they've been making them by the hundreds, and they've been filling in all the open spaces with metal, with holes in it so you can breathe. Numerous people have gone over and looked inside these things, and they've seen shackles hanging inside these cars. The FEMA camps.
Robert, I have a friend that her friend's son is welding those shackles in them cars, and I asked her, why is he doing that when he knows that those are going to be for us? And he said that they're telling the college kids are the ones that are doing the welding. They're telling them that they're going to be sent somewhere else overseas. So, but thank you, Florida. I'm sorry, I'm going to have to mute you back. I have others that have their hands raised. Let's give everyone
Thank you very much.
A fair shot here at asking a question. Thank you so much. Very good questions. And yeah, a lot of people are like, let's just put it this way. We shouldn't worry about whether we're going to survive it or not. We all die one day. If we do survive it, I don't think it's going to be a picnic. It's going to be hell on earth. Are you still with us?
The FEMA camps are going to put the Nazi death camps to shame. The Nazis wanted to kill the Jews, the other races.
Yeah.
The FEMA camps are going to want to keep people alive. They're going to be the workers.
They're going to be the slave race.
They're going to be the workers who are rebuilding everything.
Let me ask Scott if he's still with us. Are you still with us, Scott? Yeah, we lost him. Interesting.
Back about 2010, every U.S. agency, from the post office down all the way down, started buying up millions and millions of rounds of ammunition and guns. Why does the post office need millions and millions of rounds of ammunition and guns?
And they gave also Social Security. We have one more caller that has their hand raised. Welcome to the show, Missouri. You have a question?
One of my questions is about this info of the flat Earth that's been going around on YouTube.
Okay.
And I was just wondering, you can understand, I've been looking at almost like everything that you guys have been saying, and I'm really interested in what's going on with the Nibiru planets and about these videos. And also, we have a lot of stuff on here that's, happening that people are seeing that is either disinfo on YouTube.
There is a massive amount of disinformation being put out. There's a massive amount of disinformation over the United States and Canada. None of the news agencies will talk about all these things that people are seeing in their skies. We are the first humans in over 3,000 years to see this stuff. January 8th, over Florence, Italy, a friend of mine didn't like her horizon, or his horizon. Took a nice photograph of the horizon. And when the photograph was enhanced, it showed a huge red thing on the horizon, far larger than our sun. The image was inverted, showing black and white. This showed a huge planet-looking thing on their horizon. So these things are very close to the Earth right now.
Now, would you sit there and also sit there and say, because of what's going on with these planets, that's why we're seeing the weird phenomenon with the electrical storms that are killing out all these animals, and all these people are getting struck by lightning too?
Yes.
And what about the sound that people have been hearing all over the world of the trumpet-like horns that were spoken about in the Bible?
During the Exodus, Ippawar, the Egyptian scribe, detailed that they were hearing a sound of 10,000 trumpets in the air. The same sounds we're starting to hear all around the planet. Okay? Nibiru orbits between Jupiter and Mars. We are not going to see Nibiru. We're seeing 8 of Nibiru's 13 planets in our skies right now. Every government around the planet has prepared for this already. They know what's coming. They built all these domes all around the planet. They built the seed vaults. They built the FEMA camps here in the United States. Every other country is going to take care of their population that survives on their own terms. I can only talk about what we have here. FEMA camps from the East Coast all the way up to Alaska. The survivors are going to be kept alive in the FEMA camps from those 4 immense food storages that are built already. They're going to be the workers to repair things. If they die, they'll be in one of those thousands of 3 to 5 person caskets which are buried outside of each one of the FEMA camps. They're going to have to pick up all the bodies too.
Yeah. I think that's what a lot of the military build-up is. They're going to be the cleanup crew.
The military has been pre-positioning a lot of equipment all around the United States. When we fly through its tail, just like in all 3 accounts, massive amounts of rocks and stuff came down from these skies. They're going to take out every one of the satellites, including the ISS station. There's going to be nothing in our skies except for the helicopters with the infrared FLIR detectors on the front. Every country has them. They're going to use them to pick up the survivors. Other groups are going to be grouping together all around the surviving areas. That's why the retired military people were being rounded up and taking all their guns. Because if I knew a military guy was near me, they're all taught to bivouac, live off the land, where most of us don't know how to do that.
Yeah.
Except for the Native Americans. They do
And
it by
the
normal.
elderly and the sick are going to be the first that'll die off because they won't have the strength to survive, you know.
And the ones that need their medications because they can't get
right.
the medications.
People that are on dialysis because there'll be no electricity for the machines. I mean, you know,
the medical systems in the United States, around the entire world, will go back to the 1800s.
Yes, it will. Well, Robert, that's all we have for questions tonight, and it's getting pretty late here. So we're going to end this show out. I want to thank you for coming on and sharing your information with us, and we
thank
will
you for
have
asking
you
for
back.
I'm sorry Scott disappeared. He's a fantastic person. He knows a lot. Jeez.
Yeah, I'm going to give him a call and find out. His phone might have went dead. He was, you know, I know he talks on a cell phone, and we were out here for quite a long time, so he might have lost power on his phone. I'll shoot him out an email, find out what happened. But we will. I would like to join up with him, with his knowledge and what I've learned over researching this stuff. Jeez, when you get your computer back, get a hold of me, and I'll hook you guys up, and you can, because he does have some phenomenal photos. And I know you do, so and I know he told me this morning he would love talking to you one-on-one. So what I'll do is I'll hook you guys up with the phone numbers, and you can get together and swap some information out.
Yeah, because, I'm told by my contact to tell everyone to prepare for a 6-month backpacking trip. Okay?
Uh-huh.
That's what she told me directly. She's been working with numerous people, all telling them the same things. Make sure they get a handheld shortwave radio. Because everything will be down except for shortwave. The Baofeng radio's really good on Amazon or on the internet.
Now, see, Jim Baker's show, they are selling a shortwave radio that you can listen for like $65, and they also have the equipment set up. So if an EMP goes off or we don't have any communication, they are going to be one of the ones out there that are going to be a base for information to let people in the United States and around the world know what's going on. So, you'll be able to tune into their stations through the little radio that they're selling for $65. And that radio is a hand crank radio, and it's also a solar radio.
Right, exactly. Just like during World War II, everyone had to listen into a certain radio, and they used shortwave to learn from other people. But the powers that be will be looking for those radios when you transmit.
Well, he pretty much knows what's going to happen because they're building where they are, they're building it up like a compound, and he just built a guard shack because he sells emergency food also. And he just built a guard shack to guard their compound, and they spent, I think he said, $145,000 on that guard shack because they made everything bulletproof. He said you cannot expect somebody out there to guard them and put their lives at risk. The glass, the doors, the walls, everything is bulletproof. So he knows what's going to go down. He talks about that they're going to know that they got the food and they're going to come for it.
Yes, exactly. Those preppers, and there's numerous ones of them, have been doing this for a couple of years now. They're teaching people. Marshall Masters is actually teaching some type of classes, prepping people to survive. But everyone who's not a prepper will overwhelm those people.
Yeah. I'll tell you another thing that people aren't taking into account is the fact that the nuclear not to mention the meteors are going to be radioactive, but the nuclear plants are going to melt down. So the water supply is going to be radioactive, people, and that's another thing that Jim Baker hooked up with Chalet Water Company, and they are selling water bottles right now that are called Supreme Survival bottles, and they take out everything, lead, contaminants. You can go to a mud puddle and drink out of these bottles, and they also take radiation out. And this week, because it was his wife's birthday, they are selling, when they first came out with these bottles, they were asking $100 a piece for them. They are selling 6 of these bottles for $59 right now.
Right. FEMA took over one of the major food producers for the Army, the EMTs, those little food packets the Army eats, and they produced for 1 year massive amounts of these things. For 1 year. So they're already prepared for this stuff. They've been sealing up caves all around the United States where you can't go into a cave and hide because they seal.
I've seen the pictures of the caves. How they're cementing them up like a bridge with metal rods where nobody will be able to go into them. I seen a guy put up a YouTube video that he said he lived in the mountains all his life, and he went up there and he said, "Look at this." He said, "I've never seen anything like this." They've got these caves all sealed off. That's because they don't want anybody to survive. They want as many people to die as they can get to die. And I want to talk about the water real quick again because, the
emergency water filters
filter out so many, gallons of water. I can't remember what they said. You'll get the instructions. But he also has a hand pump one that you put the part down and then you pump it. And it has a massive filter, and they do sell extra filters. So keep in mind that if you're going to invest in this, it's only going to filter for so many months, and you're going to need a new filter. So
and those lanterns that you hand crank to charge up the batteries, they work for like a couple hours, no problem. And then there's the solar-powered chargers. So those who have iPads, laptops, cell phones, notepads, to keep them working.
I'll tell you what we'll do is maybe we'll come back out here, we'll do another show, and we'll do it on prepping and surviving. How does that sound?
Sounds good.
So when, you guys can all come back, we'll get it out there and advertise, and we'll give you information where to get good deals, where they're giving good deals on the food. I know a lot of places that are running specials right now. Also, I know a few places where you can buy the iodine tabs, the water purification tabs. So we'll work on this together, and we'll come back out here, and we will do a show on helping people prep for this.
No problem.
All right, honey. Well, thank you so much for your time. Great information, Robert. I'm looking forward to having you back. And like I said, I'll get a hold of Scott, and you guys can hook up and share your information, and we can get back out here and try to help these folks that are wondering what should I do next.
No problem. Just let me know when. I'll be there.
Okay. Thank you so much. And on that note, folks, I am going to close out with my closing bumper song. I hope everybody enjoyed themselves tonight. I will have Scott come back. I'm sorry that he didn't get to talk as much as we thought he could, but, we have a lot of information to get out here. And I will get a hold of Scott, and we will have him back out here also.